benefits. And
Yes, it makes it tough for everyone involved.
They feel like people.
Our voices will keep our best foot forward. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our Smooth Transitions podcast, episode 3 with iFoster, your survival guide to exiting foster care, brought to you by those who have gone through our own foster care journey. I'm Chelsea Reynoso.
And I'm Kiara Green.
And in today's episode, we will be talking with Kiara Green about the importance of support networks and building strong relationships as we exit the foster care system. So research shows that people with strong support networks experience better overall health and wellness, increase motivation to pursue goals, and even perform better at work. Yet a large percentage of youth exiting foster care say they don't even have the adequate support network, and 1 in 5 say they have nobody to turn to when they exit care. In California, youth exiting foster care have to have a transition plan established by their transition team. A common goal in that transition plan is for the young person to have one lifelong connection to a supportive adult. Kara, do you think that's enough for someone exiting foster care?
Yes and no. Transitioning out of foster care is a crucial period for a youth, and it marks the shift of becoming independent and self-sufficient. But I also think that a foster youth should develop multiple supportive adult connections, and having a transition plan is essential to ensure the foster youth have the tools and resources they need just for more than one adult in each aspect of their life. And to find these tools and resources, we would need more than one lifelong strong support network that can provide a youth with guidance, encouragement, and emotional support. So, with these support groups, the youth will have a sense of belonging, stability, and the confidence to navigate the challenges while they transition.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Support networks are far more complex than just one supportive person. In fact, experts say that a strong support network is made up of a wide range of people who can provide support in many different areas. The top 3 being emotional, concrete, and informational support. And those people can be either formal or informal supports. Formal meaning like caseworkers, ILP case managers, lawyers, counselors, other professionals. Informal supporters can include friends, extended family, neighbors, and community members. Like in iFoster's Voice of the Community report, we mentioned that as part of the Child First model, that having a supportive team for foster youth is so crucial because, having people that follow their life throughout foster care, their time in foster care, they will know them best. They will know what they need. Um, you know, Going back to what I was saying earlier, who are some of the key players in your support network now, like based off of our conversation?
Yeah, so as of right now, my key players, I lean more towards the informal supporters, which is like my close friends, my partner, and community members just located in my area. And during the time when I was transitioning out of foster care and being independent, um, I had the start of like formal support, and those were my IOP coordinator, and I also had a mentor that helped me. And those were the ones that helped me to, focus on employment, focus on school, and guide me to make sure that I was on the right track. And not only that, um, my former people, they really helped me where we built like a strong relationship after. And it wasn't like me going to them just for a specific need. It was more than that because they knew what I was going through while I was transitioning.
Yeah, I had similar experiences. I think my support network was my social worker. And then for everyone listening, also, like, we know like everyone's support network is different, right? You may have less informal than formal or less formal than informal support, which means maybe you only had your social worker, maybe you only had your sister, your brother, or just one friend that was your biggest support. We hear a lot of good things about how social workers helped, and then a lot of experiences about how they didn't, foster youth didn't feel like they were helped as much while they were in the system, and felt that that transition out was kind of a scary transition, which we totally get. So that's why it's important, I think, to build relationships if you don't already have them. iFoster is always here. iFoster could always be like your support system, someone you go to for questions, where to get resources. We're here to help you. We have a group of people who are just very dedicated to the work of working with foster youth caregivers. And we have team members like Kara and myself, who are former foster youth, who are here to just support you. So definitely, if you feel like you're struggling with creating that support system or support network in your life, definitely reach out to us. What are some of the challenges with your support network and building relationships that you encountered when you exited care? And then, just to give you an example, as I was mentioning earlier, I had a social worker that was telling me about, the transition piece of exiting foster care. And I turned, or was when I was 17, about to turn 18. That's when you have that conversation with your IOP coordinator and your social worker about transitioning out of care if you want to. I know this is the case for a lot of foster youth. It's like, yes, I'm out of here. Like, I don't want to be in the system anymore when I'm 18. So those conversations are had, right? And so this social worker definitely supported my decision to exit foster care when I was 18. So she was like looking for resources for me and was just giving me next steps. So definitely I had that support system. I didn't really have an informal support system yet. So definitely like those are things that I had to learn along the way and like build on my own. iFoster is definitely like part of that support system that I found. So just, a lot of good experiences, even though it's like a rough start, especially for foster youth, like anyone listening, even, for non-foster youth individuals, like building a support system is so important. Like finding people that you could depend on and people who are really there to see you succeed and want the best for you and will help if you need it. It's definitely a challenge, and that's why coming to iFoster is something I would highly recommend, because it's a start, right? Like it's a start to go to an organization shares the passion of helping this community. So I would just encourage you all to do that. But back to the question, Kiara, like what are some of the challenges, like I said, with your support network and how you decided to build relationships?
Yeah, so at that time, one of the challenges that I was just experiencing, like I was such in that high school phase, like it was senior year. So all of the things that was just based off of like school education, go to college and all of that. That
Mhm.
was in my head. I was like, oh, ready for graduating, ready for prom. But I noticed my situation was like a bit different than, another student that's graduating. So the first thing that I experienced, like just after graduating, was knowing that one, I aged out. I just turned 18. At that time, I was a King Gap youth, and it was hard for me and my grandma just to reach out to them because she wasn't really good at like technology and stuff like that. So with that of me not understanding like who to reach out to as like a former support, that was one of the challenges. But until then, like I was just dealing with the stress of like aging out was like a big one because I automatically was like thinking the worst. I was telling myself like, oh, this is going to escalate to, I'm going to become homeless. My family's going to be homeless. Like we probably ain't got nowhere to live, and I don't have no money. I don't know how to work. I don't have a car. So all of those things were just building up with stress. And there were times where when I had that stress and I was finally found someone to, talk to, ask them like, how can I do this? How can I do that? I just felt like the way how I approached it was a little bit too much, where I was being too needy. So I realized that if you are calm and you're understanding the things that you need, those supporters will come and understand where you're at uh, with your struggle. Because if you come at them to like, oh, I need this. Oh, how can I get food stamps? How can I get into FAFSA? How can I get a job? Like, can you help me with this today and stuff? Like it's so much of a rush where sometimes those supportive people won't help you as much if you have that type of behavior. But I was stressed, so I really had to like sit down and tell myself, okay, as long as I figure out who to reach out to, and at that time it was IOP, and then they had forwarded me over to iFoster. I made sure that I was not in that panic state, but still tell iFoster like where I was coming from. So that was like the first one was stress. The second one was difficulty asking for help. Honestly, I'm still in that phase now where I automatically have that independent mentality of not relying on people due to my experience in foster care. But I had to not let that be the reason that I can't get help. I realized I need to ask some people. I need to go to Guardian Scholars, go to a job, ask a friend, ask a community member of where can I go with this? I can't just keep searching and searching until I get it right. I would need to know what's the network in my area, in my county. That way it can just help me, because doing things independent, it's just not going to work out. And I think the last thing would be the the one I was hard on was like instability, just living with my grandma. I realized that once the transition happened, once I aged out, our relationship became difficult to maintain because we were both in a stressful experience. Um, but just with her being like my informal support, she motivated me to apply for college and apply for employment. And at that time, that was like my first support, before I even knew how to get a mentor, before I even knew how to find a coordinator. Because at that time, once I aged out, I didn't have a social worker or a caseworker like that anymore, or I just didn't even know where to get in contact with or where that was. So I appreciate my grandma just of doing that role, and it motivated me to go and find those support networks for sure.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you made a really good point that I want like a lot of foster youth to hear, which is like we are definitely so capable of things, capable of just getting things done. Like we've done it on our own for so long, right? So we very much have that mindset of like, I can do this on my own. I don't need nobody's help. And trust me, like I get that. Like I love being independent. Like independence is a beautiful thing, and I would never tell anybody not to be independent. But I love the realization like you can still be independent, but support networks in certain times of your lives are a necessity, and you still be independent while you're asking for help, right? It's just that when you ask for help in different areas, it's more of a push. Like you're still doing it on your own. Like they can give you all the tools you need, but you're still getting it done, right? And sometimes we need those tools. Like we need someone to let us know how to get started, because who else tells foster youth how to get started? It's not talked about as much, right? Like even little things like how to go to the DMV and how to set up a doctor's appointment. I think we talked about that last time, Kiera. Like it's you do need it. You need a support system. You need someone to at least explain things to you, at least help you get started, and then you do it independently. You do what you've always done. Be strong, independent. And I love that for us. I love that foster youth have that mindset, but I do encourage you all to also acknowledge that, like it's okay to ask for help. Like that's what we're here for. That's what Kiera and I are here for. That's what iFoster is here for. We would love to help you with anything that you need, to the best of our ability with the resources that we have. Like that's definitely the goal, to support each other, right? Have this, really be a community. So, another thing that makes this, makes it harder for us to form good support networks and build those strong relationships. All the services for youth as they transition out of foster care focus on helping us become independent, like getting a job, finding housing, managing money, going to school, setting goals, all of those things. But like I mentioned, there's not a lot of talk about reaching out to others. Like there's not a lot of talk about relationship building or communication skills, which is why we're making this episode, right? Like those things are critical to establishing that support network. It's not brought up enough. I guess it's just assumed that we should have built those relationships, or that we should just learn how to build those relationships. But like having a conversation like Kiera and I are today, it's important to mention these little things like, hey, it's okay to build these relationships, and it's actually really helpful and vital to getting things done in your life, all the transitions in your lives. So I think just mentioning that and letting our viewers know that it's so important, and giving them our experiences is the best thing that we can do. Like support networks are really crucial to all the transitions of life, going to school, work, all of it.
So sometimes we be in situations where when we ask for help and we receive the notes, or we receive the direction, or anything, it just doesn't stop there. And to have like a long relationship, you would need to just find that support where they understand where you're coming from. Sometimes when youth approach like a caregiver or a caseworker, social worker, they're automatically going to have that instinct of, I need something. And sometimes it can come off as very blunt. Sometimes it can come off as very, needy, or just like in the urge of having it. But I wish it wasn't like, if the youth was acting this way, that doesn't mean it stops here. But one thing that just helped me, and just like I said, I had to stay calm. I had to be aware of who I was talking to. That way they can understand my needs and keep working with me. And that's how we can build like a relationship. They will know who you are from your personality and stuff along the way. But definitely we just need to find just those people where not everything is just based off of a case. It's just the overall thing to make the youth grow. And just getting back to the independence part, one key thing to just remember is, as a foster youth, we may feel this strong urge of being independent after leaving care, but it doesn't have to come at the expense of getting the support we need. So seeking help and reaching out is a sign of strength, not weakness. It's not a weakness. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel like you're lowering yourself because you're asking for help. It's a characteristic of true independence and knowing when and how to ask for help. So all the successful people that rely on support networks, they've done it, so it shouldn't be different for us as long as we know how to approach it, um and when to ask for it, and we'll get there, we'll learn.
I totally agree. What do you think, for our viewers, if you can share your experience, like what are those skills? What are those skills of learning when to ask for help? Like, um, can you go through some of those, like for anybody that's listening and is wondering, like, how do I even start that? How do I ask for help and not feel embarrassed? How do I start, building that network? And what are those skills specific to that?
Yeah, so I would say the first one that I kind of mentioned is like communicating the needs and feelings in in a proper way. Just not to approach it, becoming more assertive. So try not to panic, try not to be demanding. Being assertive is a communication style that involves expressing yourself in direct, honest, and a respectful way. The other one is active listening. Sometimes you'll be approached with, eligibility or just a certain question of someone being like concerned, and you just have to listen instead of like, zoning out and stuff. So active listening is very important. Um, Setting boundaries, not just for the sake of what scenario you're in, but just for yourself. So if you set boundaries of what you are comfortable of having in the relationship, what you actually prefer, how just putting yourself in that group, setting boundaries is important. Sometimes foster youth, and I've dealt with this personally with the word boundaries. I feel like we're automatically in the instinct of trying to adapt, trying to find that group that understands us and stuff. And we would do whatever it takes just to be involved, just to be known, stable, and everything. But with boundaries, it just shows your growth. It just shows who you are as a person, and it shows the respect that other people would have for you. Um, Also, building trust in others. I know we are coming from experience where for me it's relying on people, but you got to have some people that you would need to trust in with the process. And there's nothing wrong with checking in just to make sure that your needs are met, to make sure like you're good to go with this resource if you're qualified or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But with the relationship of trusting others, um, it will show how much of a strong relationship you will have in the long run. And I think that would just be it. The other thing would just be like how to reciprocate, you know, practicing how to give and take in the mutual support, even though you're asking for needs and stuff. Always just be thankful, show kindness, and make sure to say thank you and stuff. It just shows the lack of respect to have in a relationship. But Chelsea, did you have any key skills that probably helped you to build stronger relationships with like other people?
Yeah, as you were mentioning all of these, I was like, yeah, you're hitting all of these right on the spot. Like, I totally agree with the ones you mentioned. I think just building off of some of the things, and some key takeaways that I want for our viewers is like, you know, Kira mentioned practicing. Like, practicing to me is one of the biggest things that she mentioned because they play such a big role in the other areas. Like practicing trust, practicing communication boundaries, practicing, I think you said communicating needs, active learning, like, and then the last thing you mentioned was practicing in relationships. And I think practicing has to do with all of that because most of us growing up in the system don't get to practice these. We don't have the opportunities because we don't have those relationships,
Hmm.
or we are never taught those skills. There's never a conversation around, those type of skills that are like so vital to children, teenagers, young adults. And we learn the hard way, right? Like the hard way is like we just go through it and then we learn if it was bad or good, instead of where, other children, hopefully in like healthy households, are able to practice that with people coming in and out, in and out of their lives, growing up in a safe environment, and where they have big families, or their parents have friends, or their friends at school. There's a lot of practice for those individuals and less for foster youth. So I think that was the biggest takeaway, and definitely something that I learned as a young adult, right? Like I didn't learn it so fast. Like it's okay to learn things later in life, and that's why again, we created this podcast so that we could let people know, like, hey, this is what we did. This is what worked. We hope it'll help you. If you have questions, let us know. Like, this is our experiences and things that we learned along the way. And I would just say practice. Like, of course, building trust is a super difficult thing. Like, nobody can tell you who you can and can't trust. So it's definitely a practice thing, right? It's practicing like who is, you can trust people that are not crossing your boundaries, trust people that make you feel safe, and are not being manipulative or whatever the case may be, right? Like those are the kinds of people you want to trust, but that is definitely based off of your own experience and practicing. So that's the biggest thing for me. And I know these skills, like I said, they don't develop overnight magically. Like you have to learn them, you have to practice them. So where can people go to get help building their support networks? I think that's going to be a big question, right? Like, okay, I know the skills, I know how to get started. Where can I go? We've mentioned iFoster a lot, but Kara, can you explain a little bit about where, they can go to get this started?
Yeah, so if you're in a county that offers independent living services, highly recommend that will be the place for you to start your growth and transitioning. The Independent Living Social Service, also known as IOP, they host site events, groups, and it's like a great place for you to meet young people that were in foster care and start winding in your support network. It's a good place to also start stronger and longer relationships with IOP, because everybody knows the situation that you're in based off of your transitioning. So your IOP or your social worker can also connect you with some of those more formal supports like employment, college counselors, guardian scholars is a really good one if you have one at your college. And just others that can stay with you beyond when you transition out of your age, when you age out, basically. Another great resource, iFoster, that they have is called the A Home Within. So A Home Within provides counseling service to anyone who experienced foster care for free. So if you want to get in touch with iFoster to get connected with A Home Within, it's an awesome resource to start with.
And then I would just say iFoster as well, right? Like Kiera said, get connected to iFoster, because we may know of one that's like, not currently in the website. Maybe we're like working on putting it in the website, and, you might mention you're in a certain area and we could be like, oh, we know, this place, go to this place. It's always good just to talk to someone. Definitely reach out to like support at ifoster.org. They know all of the resources. They're the experts on the resources in the portal. And they can help you with whatever it is that you're looking for, or guide you in a different direction, whatever it may be. We're here to help. Thank you, Kiera, for joining me today. I think we all know that relationships are important, and foster youth face some unique challenges with building lasting relationships and a strong support network. I hope those of you listening out there got some ideas on how to overcome some of those challenges on your journey out of foster care. Like Kiara and I really had a good time, sharing our experiences with you. So we hope that you got something out of it. If any of the resources we mentioned here today sound like they would be helpful to you, get in touch with iFoster by clicking the link in the description. Become a member, like I mentioned, and gain access to over thousands of resources in our portal. Get in touch with us to learn more. So that's a wrap for this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast. Stay up to date on all the things you need to know to smoothly transition out of foster care, and contact iFoster to get connected to the resources we mentioned here. Join us next month as we continue the conversation about the challenges foster youth face when transitioning out of care. We just want to mention, this is a very new podcast. We are enjoying it. You'll see myself, you'll see Kiara, you'll see some of our other experts on here. And we are looking to take questions and suggestions. This is our first time, and we really want to connect with you all and answer some questions that you have. Please feel free to add a question or suggest a topic at that link so that it could be in a future podcast. But other than that, thank you all so much for listening or watching. Really enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you, Chelsea. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye.